This is Mile High.
Do I want to tell the story or do I want to show the message?
You've got a lot of work to do between Mile High.
The time has come where we can know
we have a responsibility, an ethical and moral responsibility.
We have to do it better in order to move people along.
Up, down, inside out.
If you get your mind right,
it is not. It is a receiver of thought.
because love is my first technique.
it's now time for the show.
Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles. Thank you for being a listener, viewer, whether you're on iTunes or YouTube or Spotify. Make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss any Mile High tick. So the episodes come out right consistently, weekly, and you want to make sure to be in on it. And it's just as much as you want to be in on being at high altitude in August of 2026 and Mile High 14. It's hard to believe it's Mile High 14, but it is. I don't know what the theme's going to be, but I do know it's in August, and you want to make sure you mark your calendar. Just reserve it and know that you want to be at a couple things each year. When I start my year, I mark being at Sherman Lyceum every year. When it is I put down my calendar. I put Mile High in my calendar because I kind of have to be there. So it's August 20th weekend. RiseUpToMileHigh.com, and there's a handful of things that I dialed it in, and it's part of my year, and you should do that with Mile High. So I'm grateful to have on this episode Dr. Bill Decken, who was on stage this year at Mile High and was my philosophy instructor back a long time ago, and has been teaching philosophy at Sherman College for many, many moons. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Bill Decken.
Hi, Danny. It's great to be with you.
Well, we're grateful to have you here. And you asked me not to ask you any difficult questions, but I just thought of something to ask you first, which is we're in the middle of the World Series going on, right?
Right.
So, yeah. So, can you share a little bit about baseball and the National League and the American League before we go any further? Because you have opinions on this.
I have opinions on that, and they have since changed.
Oh, really? Okay.
As you know, because I was always a National League fan, because they are the straight focused National League, baseball league, because there was no designated hitter. And if the American League was going to put up a guy on the field that doesn't have to bat, I kind of look at that as mixing, so I couldn't pull for them. But now everybody's mixing, so I go with who I like, and that's usually the underdog.
So does that mean in this series you're going for the Blue Jays?
I am.
Okay.
They look the same on wins and losses, but the Dodgers just get so much hype, kind of like turning on the television and seeing a pharmaceutical company advertising all the time. So I'm going with the Blue Jays.
Yeah, when the Dodgers were in Brooklyn, that was a different story, than when they moved out to LA. I mean, I remember my grandfather telling me that when the Dodgers left Brooklyn, it ripped the heart out of Brooklyn, he said. So
yes.
Yeah.
My grandfather was New York Police Department, and he was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan.
Yep.
Who worked many games at Yankee Stadium.
Yep.
And that doesn't fit.
No, and Ebbets Field, long time ago. But that kind of says you're right. It's a little bit of what we've seen in chiropractic over the years too. So first, let's get to know you. How did you find your way into chiropractic and down from the Northeast to Sherman College?
Oh, Danny, I was teaching high school chemistry in Poughkeepsie, New York, and one of my students, out of the blue, suggested that I be a chiropractor. She said I should be one. Because I was telling them I wanted to move on. I didn't see myself teaching forever. So I talked about it. I looked into it. It looked like a profession that was proactive with regards to your health. And she gave me, this student, 11th grade student, gave me a lot of things to read. I read them. They made sense. It sounded an awful lot like taking care of the car that my mechanic dad told me about. So I looked into it, and I couldn't find a chiropractor to check me. Nobody offered to check me. I didn't have a particular problem. So I ended up going to Sherman College. I found Sherman College, thankfully, and I went there without ever having had my spine checked.
Wow.
My main goal was to have my own business and be free from not only teaching, but I moved from teaching to Texaco oil research, and I didn't like the corporate world. Wasn't for me. I like being out. I like moving around. So chiropractic sounded great. It wasn't until I got to Sherman that I realized it's bigger than me trying to have my, selfish goals of being self-employed. I learned the philosophy, and I saw how important it was to get this message to more people. And so I stayed in teaching. So for a man who was mostly motivated by being self-employed, now I'm working for Sherman College teaching for over 39 years. But I have been self-employed because I have my own practice for over 39 years. And that's a long time to do two things, and it gets you tired.
Well, let me ask you this. What about that has that given you, because I'm sure there's a lot of gifts that you have received through that. I'm not talking about, pay scale. I'm talking about how that has fulfilled you.
Well, it's been very fulfilling to see the light come on in somebody's eyes, whether they be a practice member in my practice or a student in my classroom. And I tell the students on day one, my job is to step on your toes. You're going to be a doctor of chiropractic. You have to know where your answers to your own questions come from. Are they coming from an above, down, inside out worldview mentality, or are they coming from an outside in, below up, oibu mentality? And that's number one. You have to know you. And secondly, people are going to ask you questions your whole career. Where are your answers coming from? Are they coming from above, down, inside out, or are they coming from outside in, below up? So it's very important for you to think. We're not going to tell you what to think at Sherman College. We'll explain chiropractic. You adopt as much of it into your life as you see necessary. So it's very rewarding to see that happen when students just wake up, regardless of what side it is. It's
Right.
no longer an unconscious process. Now they're consciously engaged in it. So that's good.
Yeah, I personally, one of the things that I love about practicing is the light bulb moments when I see something go off in a person. It could be something feeling different in their body or something different in their thought process. But, as you practice day in and day out, there's those moments. And it's all like, it's almost like winning on a slot machine that all of a sudden, and everything, chimes up. And you're like, they got it. And it's like just a big win. So, what do you think in watching that process in people's head and heart in chiropractic students is an area that they struggle with or they have difficulty grasping?
You mean besides biochemistry?
Yeah. Besides biochemistry, I mean in the philosophy world. Because you must see them have to, see the gears turn in their mind.
It's new language.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's the biggest part of it is getting comfortable with the idea that I have to learn a new language if I really want to understand chiropractic. And at the same time, I got this academia thing where I got to worry about my grades. So they're trying to find that balance. If they would just relax and forget the grade will be there just fine. So just keep asking yourself and keep chewing on it and keep digesting. What's the difference between mechanism and vitalism? What's the difference between adio and oibu? What is a vertebral subluxation? Why is that so important for us to focus on rather than being symptom treaters, which everybody thinks healthcare is? So that's probably the biggest struggle is learning the language.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think they're okay. You know, the student today is much more health oriented than 20 or 30 years ago.
Interesting.
And you can tell that in, you know, in what they eat and how they carry themselves and their own personal level of fitness. And there's 3 gyms on every corner now in every community you go to, so they're more into the whole fitness thing. So they're already thinking of a proactive lifestyle. And when they can see that chiropractic fits right in with that, then they can start taking some bigger steps.
Have you ever noticed, I mean, you must see over decades here, chiropractic students and then see them go in various directions as the type of practice they end up having, or even if they go into practice or they, you know, move into something else. I mean, I'm sure you've witnessed that over the years. Have you ever noticed particular characteristics that you've picked up, like this person's going to thrive in practice? Or is it that you, or do you have no idea when you're in class with them?
I don't know that we might think we have an idea, but when the realities of life hit you, and there's no more student loan, and now you are solely responsible for your income, that puts a different layer of pressure on the student when they graduate. So they may be strong in one area and then make compromises because they have other things that they need to take care of in life. Education is very expensive these days.
Well, what is something in, you know, in the classroom that you really feel, whether a person went to a school that had a strong philosophical program or they didn't, that is a key topic for doctors? Again, whether they got a education had some kind of philosophy in it or not, that doctors in the field really need to own or get a deeper understanding of.
You definitely need to understand that chiropractic is founded on principles, because that's the yardstick that you go by in chiropractic, in my opinion. If you're not going to rely on those 33 principles to understand chiropractic, what will you base it on? Who will be your authority? Is it going to be the person who told you about chiropractic? Is it going to be a book that you read about chiropractic? And that could be positive or negative. That could taint you in that direction. So I think everybody needs to understand what those principles are, and then bring back everything you hear at a seminar or conference or book. Bring it back to that standard. I've looked at it. And in my opinion, those 33 principles are the standard that we should compare everything to. Other than that, you know, everything, a lot of things that BJ wrote in the green books were his personal philosophies, not necessarily chiropractic philosophies. And so you're not going to find everything that he said matches up to the 33 principles. But we can say that about all of us, not just BJ. So the green books are great. Strauss's blue books are great. What Simon puts together is fantastic. Simon Senzon. But what are you going to compare that to? What's your standard? What's your yardstick? So I think that's important. And when somebody starts talking chiropractic language, and let's say you've never heard it before because you went to a school that didn't teach it, it piques your interest to want to know more about it. And so you could ask them, where do I go to learn that? Right? So some of them show up at Lyceum. Some of them are going to show up at Mile High. A lot of them that I've met show up in the ACP program at Sherman College, the Academy of Chiropractic Philosophers. We're not their first exposure. They heard it from somebody in their community, and they want to know more about it. And so here's some books to read. Here's a course to take, etc.
Well, and I'm really grateful for the people that helped me philosophically when I was at Sherman College. Our instructors, you know, you were one of mine, but all our instructors were pretty extraordinary in this area. And a question that came up frequently and was, well, that's just philosophy. that's not going to help you in practice. And that was a detractor that people said relative to philosophy. It's okay, great, you can learn philosophy, but in practice you have to do something different, or you have to that's not going to help you. And I still hear that from people. Why is philosophy important?
Well, philosophy guides our actions. So what are the two biggest actions of a chiropractor? One is their personal life, and two is their practice. So if it's not a chiropractic oriented, inside out, vitalistic philosophy, what is going to guide you in your personal life? What is going to guide you in your practice? If I do not have an understanding of chiropractic philosophy, again, based on the principles, why in the world would I suggest to a mom and dad of a brand new baby that they get their baby checked? Right? If I go with what the world says, if I go with what society puts on the internet and the web pages, chiropractic is for neuromusculoskeletal problems. And babies and kids don't have that. So when I say, why should I check that child? That's a philosophy question. That's a philosophy question. I'm asking why. My philosophy, my 33 principles tell me that I should check that baby for vertebral subluxation.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why philosophy is important. It's not a philosophy that you're going to sit out on the field or by the beach and contemplate your navel. It's something that requires action, because chiropractic is 1/3 philosophy, but there's also science and art to that profession. So if you want to be sturdy, develop all three of those. I tell students in my philosophy class, my number one desire for them is to be a good artist. Because if they're a good artist with the art of chiropractic, it's going to require a thorough understanding of the philosophy. But art is what you give to the people. Mm-hmm. And of course, science plays the role in getting you to that adjustment. So I think it's crucial that we think about what we're doing. Everybody has a philosophy when they make the adjustment. A lot of them might think it's me fixing the cause of the problem, not your body dealing with vertebral subluxation. I'm better than the medical doctor, right, in the mind of the chiropractor, because I'm not treating the effect, but in their minds, they're treating the cause. Mm-hmm. But where did the body come into play then?
Right.
So we got to have the thorough, complete understanding.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so then, many people get to go to schools where they get some philosophy in school, and then there's many more that don't. In fact, there's many more that graduate that don't get any kind of philosophical basis, which is very sad, because that's to me, it's, in my thought process, really out of bounds of what you see the graduates, proportionate that get some kind of philosophical education. There's only a few schools that have some philosophy in it. And so it gets very out of balance of who's in the field, which, is very concerning of what's the percentage that actually are addressing subluxations and actually even adjusting people. So then with that, why is the ACP a gift to that? And why is the ACP important? In fact, actually, I use the term ACP. Maybe people don't even know what that is.
That stands for Academy of Chiropractic Philosophers. It's a 1-year course done over 5 weekends over a calendar year. And you can learn chiropractic according to the 33 principles. So you can learn about worldview, you can learn the principles, you can learn the key cycles, you can learn about reasoning, deductive and inductive. There's so many topics. The mental impulse is huge. Tone. D.D. Palmer said chiropractic is founded on tone. We spend a lot of time digging into that. And so we do it from an academic viewpoint. And people need to know it. And they seem very happy with what they're getting.
And why is that important to the chiropractors in practice that has a practice and maybe like, well, why do I want to go learn philosophy? Why is that important? Then they'll ask, why? How is this going to help me now?
Right. It's kind of like the ball players in the World Series right now, right? They are the creme de la creme right now.
Right.
Their two teams made it all the way to the World Series. What did they start this year doing in February and March? When they were in Arizona and Florida, they went over the basics. They're professionals and they went over the basics. And before every game, they take batting practice. Why did they do that? They're professionals already. They already have the big paycheck. So it's kind of the same mentality. You need to learn what your roots are. And then if you listen to the feedback from people, it either directs their practice in a way that brings them more ease and peace, or it helps them get to a new level, a new place, a new way of understanding the practice that they already have. And there's so many ways that it can benefit you, and that's what a lot of them like to write about and talk to each other about.
Mm-hmm. And who teaches that? I mean, I know you're involved, but who else teaches that?
Well, I teach some of it and I coordinate it, but we have other people who have been through the ACP program or are well read and even write on the topic. Claude Lassard, in practice over 50 years, is in that program. Felicia Stewart, Terry Vandervoort. I could go down through the long list. We have international people that speak on the program. They come from different places. They come from Mexico. They come from Spain. They come from Germany, South America. And many in the United States. And they all understand what we're trying to do with the program and have been through it themselves.
I'm pausing the recording because all of a sudden I lost my microphone. And I noticed that. So I paused the recording so we can go back. And I don't know why it did that. So just give me a second.
Find out where you cut out?
Yeah, no, it'll be fine because you were talking. So all good. And I don't know why that happened.
Well, I'm glad it's not me responsible for that technology.
No, it was me. So I'm going to fix it before I ask you a question.
Where did you live in Where did you live in the Bronx?
Hold on. Select a speaker. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I've heard you all the way through.
I can't hear you. I lost my headphones. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
The microphone is set, but somehow my speakers, audio, I'm going to disconnect and then reconnect.
That sounds like the universal adjustment.
Select a speaker. Hello again. Can you speak again, Bill?
Hello? Hello?
Huh.
Testing?
Microphone? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
It's really weird. I've never had this happen. Headphones. Hello.
I got you.
System.
Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you, but I use a headset. Oh, I think I know why. Maybe. But I'd rather fix it and then hit record again. Which is easy to do, it won't mess it up at all. But because you were talking and I noticed it. Audio speaker needs to this headphone. Have the microphone as this microphone. But I think someone called me and somehow the call routed to my computer and then it took it, which is really weird. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Huh. Same system. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I have oh, wait. Can you
Test.
hear me now? Ah, there we go.
Test, test.
Yep. I just want to make sure that when someone else is speaking, it doesn't echo to the microphone. It goes to this.
Right.
Otherwise, it echo feedback. So all of a sudden, I lost my headset, and if kept going, then it would echo to this thing. So all right, problem reverted. So I fixed that. So very strange. I never had that happen, but oh well. I think someone called and somehow that went to the computer and it took the thing, and I don't know why it would go to the computer. But we're good because I can hit record again. I can ask your question. So and then we just hit record. So good, all good. I'll do that. Also, I'll move forward. You can still hear me?
Yep.
All right,
Good deal.
there we go. All right,
Good.
here we go. So then, moving back a little bit, when you think about that and the Advanced Chiropractic, the ACP, Academy of Chiropractic Philosophers, what have you seen in people after they have participated in that?
Well, I think we see the whole spectrum, Danny. There's some people that I don't hear from, and I don't know what they're doing in their practice, the same or different. So I can't comment on them, but that's very much like the students I teach at Sherman. And then the other end of the spectrum is people who really get involved and really make a concerted effort to write and speak about important chiropractic issues and want to get involved in the profession. And then you got the whole blend in between, kind of like a continuum, like we see in people's health and life. So you see the whole thing, but we're able to reach a segment of the population that never had it in school. And that's becoming more and more common.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate. That's part of why, it's a big part of why I'm sure you put your time and energy into this because you value that. And it's also a big part of why I put the energy into Mile High, because I see it over and over again that people didn't get any kind of philosophical basis, and I want to have a home for that in the center of the country.
Right.
And so we do the philosophy nights, and we do so that people can get exposed to some part of chiropractic that they either didn't ever get exposed to, which is our principles, or they just did not get enough exposure. Either it's completely new or they're hungry for more. So you got to attend your first Mile High Chiropractic Movement weekend. Tell me how that was for you.
Let me hold back on that just a second. I want to go back to what you just said and
okay.
add to that, Danny, people who are in a different place and they heard the philosophy at some point in their past, but now they're in a different place and it strikes them as completely different.
Ah, that's true. That's a really good point.
For instance, we have students that do real well because they're good students. And when they get out of school and they are now faced with practice, they see where it all fits together and they think about it differently than they did when they were students. That's not everybody, but that's a good number of students. And the thing I like to your next question,
actually what you're saying, part of that is they got into the business of chiropractic and running their practice and having to pay bills and having to, make sure they provide for their family, and then they can, go down a path that, because they don't know how to bring the philosophy and practice together, right?
Right. And they're trying to weigh what else they might do in practice, and they run that through a philosophical filter as well. Mm-hmm. The thing that got me excited at Mile High was the number of people that were there because they genuinely wanted more of that in their life and practice. And whether that was picking it up for the first time or dusting off something that was there that had collected dust, I just got a good vibe from being in the room and watching. I was watching a lot of people, and they liked They liked and were appreciative of what they were hearing from all the speakers, and I think that was valuable.
It's really interesting when many things in life you set out to do something and then it takes lots of directions and you don't necessarily know what that will look like. You think it's going to look like one thing, then as years go by, it looks different, or it becomes an organism of its own. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And what I realized is I used to think it's like I have to get stellar speakers, which we do. And I put a lot of energy into that, and that's just going to make it exciting. And I have to have a great venue and have CE credits and all that kind of stuff. But then the more I do this, I realize that's all great, but really more, it's the people that attend. It's the people that attend, and it's like a living organism or a field that's created from their energy and presence that actually feeds back to the speakers and to the audience. That people love the community and connection that they have in the conversations. And I that wasn't even on my radar as something that kind of what makes it what it is. And now I have a different understanding of that. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Chiropractic is a living organism, and we have multiple organs. We have multiple cells in that organism, and they each play a role. It's kind of like the human body, right? Mm-hmm. And so the guy or gal, the doc, up on the platform speaking is no better than the person, the doc in the audience. They're all playing an important part of the chiropractic organism. And I think if we could each learn our part and enhance and lift each other up, chiropractic is better.
Right. And there's something about that when people get out of the four walls of their office, that chiropractors thrive in community. And I think as they're more of a single cell, not connected with others, they don't thrive as much as when they are together.
Well, it's nice when you bump into chiropractors thinking like you in a place you didn't expect to see it. If I could put it in the terms of battle, of warfare, I could easily look at what I'm doing as me out in the foxhole trying to protect and advance chiropractic at the same time. Mm-hmm. And then I meet some other people who are in their own foxhole and we never knew we were out there.
Right.
And we're not, we have to stop looking at competing and look at working together. We don't need to argue over, I'm going to say unimportant things. That'll upset a lot of people, but we don't have to argue over how the vertebral subluxation is corrected. We have to know that it's great that there are other people out there doing that, and they're trying to accomplish the same thing we are. And that's a culture, a population that's healthier and expressing more of their innate intelligence. And stop fighting over the little stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And that's part of what as we do philosophy nights out here and do those things, I feel like the community of chiropractic is vital. And when we don't have that and don't connect with each other, it impacts our ability to thrive in practice. And I know some people say, well, I can be good in business without anybody else. I don't need anybody. You can also give to the people that are around you. And that giving to other chiropractors and your experience is also really important. I think community is vital. So now with that, what principle, what's a, like, if there's someone like, this philosophy, I never read green books. I didn't learn chiropractic or subluxation other than it is a historical thing, which is sadly a lot of what the current education is. That's becoming more and more, unfortunately. What's the starting place? What's like a principle that people need to say, this is what you need to anchor on or start to look at first?
Well, it's been said by many people, Danny, before me, that chiropractic doesn't focus on what's wrong. we focus on what's right with the body. And what's right with the body is its innate ability to reorganize, to heal, to adapt, and to thrive. So we've got to teach the innate principle. I don't think that's foreign to most people. Most lay people will understand that concept. We're just giving it a different name because we talk about it all the time. But their skin, their cuts heal, their bones heal. They'll get it. They just have to learn to trust it. And that's where we can encourage them. So that's one thing I would focus on. That's 4 out of our 33 principles are the ones that deal with innate intelligence. The other one is we do have to focus on what's wrong, and that's the vertebral subluxation. But I don't want to focus on it from that point of view, that it's bad for us, though it is. I want to focus on here's something taking place in the human body that nobody else in healthcare or in life is concerned with. And here's why it's a bad thing, and you are the only one who can do anything about it. Now, that's not easy to sell, but that is what we're about. There's nobody else removing interference caused by vertebral subluxation. So I would say that and innate intelligence are the 2 biggies.
You know, I have to say, you hear over and over, and I'm sure you have at times, oh, well, you can't be successful just adjusting people or just focusing on subluxation. It's not just, to me, it's a big thing. I mean, you do adjust it, but it's not a just, J-U-S-T. It's a, you know, you have to do other things. You can't make enough money. You know, what you just said and how you said it, you can corner the market because no one else is doing it. In fact, very few chiropractors, unfortunately, are even doing that. So it's a huge advantage in practice that you do something that no other healthcare provider is doing. And it's so frustrating when I hear those kinds of statements, you know, that you have to add more or do more.
And while I agree that that's true, at the same time, I have to tell people, chiropractor students, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy.
Right.
Because you've got to change the mindset, right? BJ called it a mindset. We're calling it a worldview. That's the hard part. That's why when that light bulb comes off in the eyes, we get excited. Right. When somebody says, how can I learn to do this? And we refer them to a school, hopefully Sherman, that's why we get excited.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. And one of my friends, Michael Viscarelli, one of the times he spoke at Mile High, he said like his, you know, unique selling proposition is that he actually focused on subluxation and adjustment because there's very few chiropractors doing that, you know. Sadly, we want all chiropractors doing it, but it's like you have a gift that other people in healthcare aren't doing, and that there's no shortage of it. You know, I was talking to, you believe you, at Mile High. I think this was one conversation when we realized that their licensees in Colorado, there's something like 1,500 licensees, active licenses in Colorado. With the millions of people, you can possibly adjust all of them. And if, you know, 300 or 400 of those, you know, because I don't know if it's more than that, are focusing on adjustment and subluxation, you have a big market in business to be successful with. There's a lot of spines to take care of. You couldn't take care of all of them. It'd be like trying to say, I'm going to adjust everybody at the World Series there. You can't do it. Right. So, you know, the opportunity in a business sense, when you focus on that, is huge versus saying, well, you can't be successful.
Well, you know, you can, and there's a good baseball analogy to that right now. The Blue Jays have this pitcher, if you've been watching the game, whose first game this season, back in the spring, was at a A-ball level, low minor leagues, and he's now starting pitcher in the World Series. So he went from A to double A to triple A, and now he's in the big deal. He's in the biggest show there is in baseball. That's you in practice. Right. You're coming out as a minor leaguer because you're brand new, and you could make it all the way to the World Series if you see it that way. And if you put the right people around you, you can do that. You don't have to think I'm stuck here in the minor leagues.
Right. Right. Yeah. and the possibilities of impact are huge, and there's people everywhere that really need you. Well, so I thank you for taking your time to be at Mile High and present. It was great to have you there, and I know people really appreciated what you shared, and I also appreciate you taking the time to be on this podcast, and for being mine, Rochelle's, my son's, my philosophy presenter instructor. So thank you for the gift that you give every day in chiropractic.
I'm happy to help, Danny, anytime. And for anybody thinking of going to Mile High in 2026, there's going to be opportunities to make new friends and bump into old ones. I was amazed at how many states actually were represented at Mile High. Everybody's not from Denver. Everybody's not from Colorado. And that was a real pleasant surprise because, again, it let me know we got people out in these other places in the foxhole doing the work.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. And thank you for being part of making this past year great. And we're going to make Mile High 14 extraordinary. And I look forward to seeing you wherever we pass in chiropractic. Probably Sherman College Lyceum is probably the next time I see you, maybe sooner. But as I said, every year I put first two things on my calendar is Sherman Lyceum and Mile High. So I recommend people do the same thing as I do. You probably put Lyceum on the calendar pretty early too, Bill.
It's there. It's there.
And everybody, keep changing spines, lives, and minds with chiropractic. Look forward to seeing you in Colorado at altitude in Mile High 14. RiseUpToMileHigh.com. Make sure you hit subscribe so you are part of never missing a Mile High tick and catching the podcast each week.